Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a fantasy movie review and I'll be having a look at the movie Dragon Sword, also known as George and the Dragon. So first thing before we get into the meat and bones of this review, this is actually a film probably for kids and families really more than an adult film. So there are certain things that will kind of irritate if you're kind of like you're a hardcore sword and sorcery fan who kind of likes your action kind of violence with lots of nudity like Game of Thrones. However, if you kind of don't mind watching you know, films meant for younger people or a younger person yourself, then you may get a kick out of this film. So this film really focuses on the character George, played by, and I can never pronounce the actor's name, James Purefoy. But he's been in plenty of these sort of like period, sort of medieval / fantasy films, including stuff like TV series like Rome, Ironclad, things like that. Now he plays a knight returning from the Holy Land back to England to sort of find his family, and ultimately just try and get a little bit of land for himself and settle down. And he kind of gets embroiled in this adventure, sort of trying to find this missing princess that they think have been sort of kidnapped by the Picts, who are kind of like depicted as savages here. And turns out she's actually protecting this dragon egg, where she believes it's the last dragon egg. The actual story is kind of goes at a fair old pace. There's lots of adventures. It's very much like a swashbuckling type of feel to it. There's lots of different sort of action involved, and a lot of it is quite campy, I have to say, and it does play a bit like a pantomime. Like I said, this is a film really based for younger sort of audiences. So you know they'll probably get a kick out of it if you're watching it as a family. The action in it is never too graphic. There is quite a lot of action. There's not really any blood in it and anything like that, so it's perfectly fine for a kind of a family audience. But there is, there's a reasonable choreography. There is stuff to enjoy if you do like your kind of your medieval action films. I think the standout thing here really is the cast. You've got a really diverse cast, including obviously James Purefoy, you've got Michael Clarke Duncan, you've got Val Kilmer, you've got Patrick Swayze. So there's a lot of faces here that you'll recognise. So it's quite nice to sort of see him on the screen, especially obviously Michael Clarke Duncan and Patrick Swayze, who unfortunately passed away a few years later. So maybe one thing you'll pick apart, possibly the sort of special effects. CGI on the dragons, for example, is probably below average that I've seen in these kind of lower budget sort of fantasy films. It's not maybe the worst, but it is, I would say it's below average. And I also think sometimes the action goes a little bit too far in the sort of the pantomime sort of style things. The first 5 minutes of the film, you'll see a sort of, you know, an older priest skateboarding down a hill and doing flips and things like that. So if that kind of thing is going to bother you, then I suggest obviously you look elsewhere. But there are sort of times in this film where it does seem more like a traditional fantasy film. I think the cast have a sort of a great sort of chemistry. I think maybe some of them maybe take it a little bit less seriously than others, I would say. But overall, it's a fairly enjoyable film. Not bad if you've got kids, I have to say. There's certainly worse films out there. It's got obviously a very kind of positive film. There's not too many dark parts in this film at all. So I'm going to give this film a 6 out of 10. You know, perfectly adequate family film. I've certainly seen worse. Have you seen it? Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment. Bye for now.